the relationship between identity and attack surface management. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Olivier is the co-founder of Saporo, who are an identity attack surface management vendor. But like all the other podcasts, Olivier, please take it away and please just give the audience just a little bit of an introduction to yourself, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good. So first of all, very sorry for the English accent. I'm French, as you can hear, so there's going to be a bit of this here and there. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Saporo. It's a Swiss startup, cybersecurity startup, active in the identity attack surface management, as you just said. So a bit of my story is pretty forward. I've stopped my studies quite early on in my journey, 21. Started my first company in IT, then sold it, then started a new one in cybersecurity this time that was called Datina, more around data classification and so on. That was very well behaving when the GDPR regulations appeared, and you needed to know where your data were and who had access to it and so on. And so that was purchased by Proofpoint not so long ago, 3 years ago. And then once again, because when when you start doing it, it's hard to stop. I found myself starting this new company. We met actually with some friends and networks from different security vendors such as Nexink, which is a Swiss one, or other US companies more active in the XDR department. And we met at a bar. We drank a lot of beers. There were Sapporo beers, and a couple of months later, a few white papers after us, we were launching the company, which is now 3 years old already. That
Nice.
sums it up.
Brilliant. And like I say, obviously, I'm very familiar with speaking with early stage security vendors across EMEA, and you're not alone in the sense of you sat in a bar and an amazing company gets born. I think that's just where they do get born, to be honest with you. So cool. Okay, let's jump into it then. So I'm going to start very much as if you can give us a helicopter overview, Olivier. So please do just give me your definition of A, what identity is, and then
Yeah.
B, what attack surface management is, just so that we can start at this helicopter overview.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the spectrum of identity, which is highly covered in the identity and access management markets, such as those, it really refers to two definitions. One are what we call human identities, which is the basics, the standards, so such as the users that belongs to machines and groups and so on, that have security protocols that can easily be tracked or monitored, that have been that are being at the center of immense talk about authentication and MFA and so on and so on. We find those identities mainly within the key annuaries, I would say, of the world, such as Active Directory or Azure or Google Cloud or AWS and so on and so on. And then you have the second aspect of identity, which is called the non-human identities, which is now topic to a new trend in cybersecurity, which is more talking about tokens and secrets and other machine credentials and so on, which are appearing as a new type of coverage that companies need to take care of. So yeah, those are the two key terms. And then on the other side of it, to your question is what is attack surface management? An attack surface management is basically a big pot of things. Cybersecurity likes to have its own sub markets and niche markets all over the place. I would say right now we talk about exposure management as a whole, and attack surface management is within this spread into two parts. One that we can call internal attack surface management or internal exposure management, which really refers to and highly focuses on identity, because it's the key piece of that internal attack surface, and considers that attackers are already inside your network and your infrastructure. And its aim is to reduce that internal attack surface, to reduce the noise, to reduce the sheer size of it, to make sure detection and response tools have better chances at catching up with the attackers. And then we have the second side of it, which is more external exposure management or external attack surface management, which is more focusing on internet-facing assets, but with the same aim to prevent attackers from entering, to reduce that external attack surface. Though when we talk about identity, it's more the internal side that will matter and interest us.
Okay. And so obviously both of them are multifaceted. They both got layers to them, both the identity and the ASM.
Yeah.
Why combine the two then? What is the rationale behind Saporo?
Well, so as I said, we come a lot from the response world. So after the attack or during the attack with detection and so on, what we've seen is there's so much noise these days, so many alerts, so many false positives. It makes the job really hard for SOC teams and even IT architects when there's an alert and say we need to deactivate that access or we need to deactivate that account and so on and so on. And there's so much noise that that task has become increasingly difficult to do. What we see today is in that space, XDR vendors becoming MDR, so managed detection and response tools, because their own customers struggle to deal with all that sheer number of alerts. So they provide services along it to help, right? So the first thought was, let's, if that's so complicated, if that's becoming so difficult to manage, let's focus on proactive security, right? To help companies before the attack happens to reduce that noise, so that when it happens, you're more, focused on your investigations. The second is more linked to how cyber threats evolved, in our opinion. So got a couple of numbers at the top of my mind. The first is I think it's a CrowdStrike number that was shared during the Gartner EIM event in London earlier this year. Is 80% of attacks leverage identity-based techniques today. So 80%, that's 4 out of 5. You think about phishing, social engineering, and so on, desync attacks, Kerberoasting, and so on. Then the other point is 40%, that's a stat from Proofpoint, of shadow admins can be exploited in one step. So that means once you breach in, and that takes in average about 62 minutes in 2024, you look for an identity, and to get to the admin level takes, what they say is about one step for 40% of the cases. And then we have the third interesting numbers. It comes from an exposure management tool, which is called XM Cyber, that says that 94% of critical assets within an environment can be compromised by 4 or fewer lateral movements by attackers. So you combine all those stuff, and you see first, identity is the real new threat. And second, it's really easy once the attacker gets in to pivot and elevate the privileges and bring the whole infrastructure down, basically. So that's the problems that we focus on, basically, at Saporo.
Okay. And why is it? Are you the first guys to combine the two sort of subsectors in security, or has it been done before? And what makes you guys unique?
Well, I think the problematic of internal attack surface management is being addressed by more and more players now. That has the same, of course, summaries as we do, identity threat, and we need to reduce the noise and need to focus and prioritize and so on. I think a couple of companies are starting to invest in what makes us unique today, which is the graph, which is more into the attack path management, which would be a subtract of this attack surface management, right? So against those different methodologies and ways to deal with that problem, I think the main and key differentiators of Saporo are regarding the technology. Evidently it's not our marketing or sheer size or funds raised at the moment, but the tech. So first I would say the graph theory. makes it that the analysis that we provide of all identities and all attack paths that could lead attackers to elevate the privileges are given without false positives, right? We see the graph as it is. There is no, we think, oh, there's a probability or such. And we have our proprietary algorithm to model the different attacks, ransomware attacks, data-sync attacks, Kerberoasting, and so on and so on. What matters is that today 75% of exposures are not exploitable. So it means, you can spend a lot of time on vulnerabilities that don't matter, or you can focus on what attackers can exploit and identify the key attack paths that will help them do that. So that's the first key differentiator, the graph. The second is, I would say, the coverage. So if you talk about identity, you need to be able to ingest and analyze a big amount of data, and within those data, details matter, right? So our aim here and what we do is really focus on identities across different systems. So I talked about Active Directory, Entra ID, Office 365, AWS, Okta, and so on and so on. Those are the key, I would say, identity providers, if you add Google. And so collect what matters in the context of attacks. So what matters is which identities are the targets and who can access it, and which attack path or which misconfiguration offers the least amount of cost for the attacker to attack. And so what matters is to be able to give this complete and unified picture of the entire identity attack surface by finding attack paths across systems and by going deep into the permissions and the misconfiguration discovery. Example here is an attacker, attacks an account, your Azure account, for example. So Nick gets your account, and then from this, he sees that you're synchronized with your local account on your local Active Directory, that you can have access to a bunch of file shares with a lot of personal and critical data in there. Or from your Azure account, you can access your GitHub account that is synchronized, or your CRM accounts, and so on. And from this, you can spread. So it's important to have this global view. And that global view, not much people can offer it right now. The third and final, I think, key differentiator of the technology we have is the sheer scalability that we offer. So the speed of analysis matters, and the ability to finish computing these attack paths matters. So at Saporo, we invested a lot into having a fast collection that can be done on-premise or in the cloud, processing and analysis time, and offer a big combo of in-memory graph database and elastic base that we have. And so what matters is we are in a step where we're moving out from doing some audits once a year to see what are my identities configured the right way, or my accesses managed the right way. We need to do it continuously. And so if you want to do it continuously at scale, you need something that's powerful. So today it enables us to compute graphs with over 250,000 employees. So that's more than 1.5 million identities in there in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's 1.1 million identities, but then it's in the tens of millions of attack paths. So having the ability to be able to do that is actually quite unique. Nobody else can at this stage, not that we know of.
Yeah, that's really cool. And who is it that would actually have a need for this then? Who needs sort of identity ASM as opposed to just having identity or ASM?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because it's as identity is a transversal issue, it's a transversal responsibility as well. So usually what we see is small organizations first in terms of size have the problem, but more into they just want to see it once, see what happens, just figure out the key problems, and they can be not done with it, but they can have the liberty of doing it more regularly like this. For larger enterprises, companies, like higher than 5,000, 10,000 employees, it's an imperative because their attack surface changing every day, all the time, and they need to be able to see what's going on, see if there is any privilege escalation happening at the moment, and really proactively take care of the problem. In terms of the people who use it, what we see today is different use cases for different companies. Some companies, they will use it as an offensive tool for investigation and research into, let's say, I know those accounts are being phished all the time. I want to see how could that attacker evolve in my space if he succeeds. So that would be a lot of red teams. Otherwise, if you talk about managing identities, managing accesses, it's more job of SecOps and IT admins or IT architects, I would say, that would be interested in solving that issue. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what I've been thinking is, during this explosion of AI, I've seen that there's been a huge demand for the need for identity and for verification that obviously is pretty much a bolt on to identity. Has the same sort of been affecting Saporo and Saporo's products, or does ASM kind of, I mean, there's a different weighting to it? How does AI impact obviously your guys' product?
And it's the big question. I think a lot of people are talking about AI without really, understanding the concept, or it's just marketing
Yeah.
bullshit a lot of the time. Sorry for the word. It's
Oh.
just I think AI today is already used in a lot of cybersecurity solutions as an assistant or as a chat support, basically, to help people navigate through what are the best recommendations or the best remediations to that problem. And then companies will bundle a lot of information that they have all around and provide that to the bot, to the chat bot, and then through AI be able to get the best answer. It's also really used today, but use it LLMs mostly, because we have the problem in security to having a lot of on-premise deployments. So it cannot be connected to the cloud. It has to be for each companies. But the idea here and the big investment that every cybersecurity company is going to face is how can AI solve the issue of my team lacking resources to solve all of the issues that those products keep telling me about. And so it comes down to prioritization and recommendations. I think that's the key. I think if cybersecurity companies don't, and startups especially, don't invest into AI in that regard within the next 1-2 years, they're going to be very late then for offering top of the world technologies out there. I think for us, so that's two topics that we actually this assistant AI and so on. These are things that will come out in the near future at Saporo. The LLM part for the recommendations and prioritization is also in progress. Testing at some customers. I think the big term that nobody wants to miss is, I would say, more about AGI and these types of new evolutions that we barely scratched the surface on today. I think even the interfaces of security products are going to change completely. Soon it's going to be just a text bar where you ask questions and you get the answer, and that's it. So I think those are big shifts that nobody wants to miss and that will drive the markets. But I think it's the same for different industries as well, right?
Yeah, of course. So I just want to take you back to nearly 4 years ago now, to when you were sat in this bar and you were drinking the Sapporos. In terms of your guys' roadmap, 4 years in, did you think that you'll be exactly where you are now, or has there been many ups and downs and turns and changes of ideas? Or are you where you expected to be when you were sat in that bar 4 years ago?
You're never where you expect to be. Creating a startup is literally chaos. I think what was it? I think it's a Musk quote or something that said it's like eating glass and staring into the abyss. That created a
I've not
startup.
heard that one. Look that one up.
That's terrible, but that's the truth. It's just every day there are challenges that you did not expect. Of course, you start off with a clear roadmap. Everything is clear. You understand the market. You know where the need is, but then you confront it to where you sell and things change. For example, at Sapro, we discussed all this project in the US, in Europe, and I came back to Europe with a clear idea, which was we're going to develop an attack surface management tool, attack path management tool designed for identities in the cloud, right? So Google, AWS, Okta, Azure, that's the future. That's where the market is going. We need to do this. Came back to Europe, everybody is on premise. Everybody. And though Microsoft was saying, yeah, in 3 years, everybody's going to be in the cloud, it did not happen this way. A lot of companies are moving to the cloud, but there are a lot of companies that still stay hybrid, still have their on-premise data for the critical stuff, but went to the cloud because of COVID. Also, that was a big boom, but for business purposes and easy to work with. But so that was the first surprise. We focused on Active Directory first instead of going to the cloud first because of our customers. That's what they expected us to do. And then the second surprise is I think we were all in the attack path things. That was to us the key innovation, the key things that the market was expecting, prioritization again, and so on. And then we realized again that the market was just starting to get ready for that, or not entirely ready. As a startup, you always say, yeah, people are ready, they understand this, but no, it takes a bit of time for the market to become mature.
Yeah.
And yeah, this instead of selling, turned into education sessions. And so instead we had to develop some ways for Saporo to be useful and understood really now. So we invested a lot of energy into properly reconfiguring or remediating configuration weaknesses for a lot of identities based on the MITRE framework, the NC framework, the CIS framework, and so on, that could help companies mitigate stuff that they understood to then enable them to evolve into understanding this whole attack path management methodology. So yeah, I would say that technology-wise, there were the two big surprises in the development of Saporo. And then as for the rest, you evolve with the products. We knew when we started that performance was going to be a critical point. But it took us 2 years to become really scalable with the product. So that meant for a long time, we could only offer that solution to small and medium-sized businesses because otherwise we could not finish the computation of the graph, right? So it took us 2 more years than expected to be able to get ready for the enterprise level and the big market level that we really always believed was the key market for us, because more identities, more permissions, more complexity, the more need for Saporo. So yeah, that also changed, the go-to-market strategy and so on, which is starting to not matter anymore, but was heavy in the first 2 years.
So that pretty much segues to my final question. And if you were able to have a time machine, Olivier, and to go back and to walk into the pub where you were creating Saporo, what one piece of advice would you give to yourself now that you have this wisdom from nearly 4 years of building the company?
It's a tough question. I think
Don't do it.
I think first something that I would really think about again is, so I'm really proud that the company is based in Switzerland and based in Europe as a whole, because there are fewer and fewer companies that are based here. It's a highly Israeli and US dominated market, but at the same time, the level of funds that you can raise in the US versus Europe, the appetite for risks and so on, is really different there. So I realized that building what we needed to build takes a lot more resources that we expected it to, and a lot more cash. And so maybe to fasten the process, we could have stayed in the US instead of coming back to home in Europe. So that's something that I would probably think over twice. And yeah, and the second, I think, would be really having more customer feedback and time to develop a beta before heading deep down into developing what we thought was the perfect solution, and then lose kind of 18 months swimming around to find it instead. I think those are the two things that we could have done better. I wish I could change if
Oh, of
maybe
course.
we
Like, to be
would
honest
go
with you,
back.
Olivier, I ask founders the exact question, and they all say the same. It's product, it's investment. Look, if we could all just start off with this amazing product and have a seed of 100 million, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? But this is the startup life where you kind of you're building a car whilst driving it, and
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much the analogy of startup life. But yeah, that pretty much brings us to a time, Olivia. So if anybody has any questions or would like to learn more about Sapporo, I'll be sure to put the information down below. But once again, Olivia, thank you very much for coming on the Security Space.
Thank you so much, Nick. Have a good one.